So spell deflection. So I used to see a lot of confusion about this talent in Wrath pre-patch and beginning of Wrath, like in phase 1. And if you look at the Wildhead comments, you look at the old like original Wrath retail comments, you can see that there was some confusion about this. So I think most of that confusion just comes from the way the talent is worded. So as you can see, I have the tooltip here. You have a chance equal to your parry chance of taking 45% less damage from direct damage spells. So in short, what this means is whatever your parry chance is the chance for this talent to proc. And I'm sure Editor Soul is going to put it up where you can actually see the proc in my buffs, because it is a proc, it's not passive. It is a proc that every time you get hit with a magic ability, whatever your parry chance is, so let's say 20%, if your parry chance is 20%, you have a 20% chance of proccing spell deflection. So that's what that means. Now the second part is probably the really confusing part, is the direct damage spell part. And a lot of people seem to have thought that direct damage meant like projectile style damage. So I guess an example would be Kel'Thuzad's Frostbolt, right? Because that's like a targeted ability that hits you. It's not an AoE, it's not a dot, it's projectile, right? It's direct damage. But that's not the case with spell deflection, and I'm going to show you here in my logs. Alright, so here we have Twin Valks, which I think is probably the best fight for this tier to showcase spell deflection's power. And as you can see, my healing on our last kill, spell deflection was topped by a country mile, did 81.3k absorb. So let's take a look at the finer details really quickly here. 1 second. Alright, so here's the breakdown of every time spell deflection procced and how much it absorbed. And as you can see on Twin Valks, because of Light Surge and Dark Surge, which is just the flat raid-wide AoE that happens as soon as you engage them in Heroic mode, I think, is that what happens? Yeah, in Heroic mode they have just a passive raid-wide dot. It could be on normal too, I don't know. But anyway, because I'm taking light, aka fire damage every 2 seconds, or dark, aka shadow damage every 2 seconds, it just gives that much more opportunity for spell deflection to proc. And as you can see, because spell deflection does not have an ICD, it can proc over and over and over and over. And in some instances, I got it like every second. So like I think right here, yep, I got it at, well, there's a 4-second split, but 120, 124, 125, 127, 129. So a lot of damage got absorbed in this little span right here. Same thing right here where you get it at 133, 134, 137, 138. So even if you look at from a minute 20 to a minute 40, 45, we'll say, because these are pretty consistent procs too. So from a minute 20 to a minute 45, it's almost like I took 45% less magic damage for 20 seconds, almost, roughly, which is really, really powerful. So this really showcases spell deflection's power really well. And another thing to bring up is that Light Surge and Dark Surge aren't targeted abilities, right? They're not like Kel'Thuzad's Frostbolt. They just happen. These abilities just happen as soon as you engage the fight. You're just taking damage every 2 seconds. So I consider that kind of like AoE, where you just, no matter what happens, it's something you can't avoid. You're taking damage. And even though spell deflection's tooltip says direct damage, this is considered direct damage because you're taking the damage. It's not a dot, it's not a periodic effect, right? Technically it is, but it's not a targeted periodic effect, right? It's not like a unstable affliction being put on you. So this is fair game for spell deflection. Same thing for Dark Vortex, right? Dark Vortex is definitely an AoE ability, but spell deflection doesn't care. As long as you're taking that damage and it's not a periodic targeted dot, it's fair game for spell deflection. Another fight I want to kind of showcase really quick is Onyxia, which has kind of a different profile for magic damage than Twin Valks does. But here, as you can see, Flame Breath, which is a conal ability, a frontal conal ability, also considered direct damage because you're taking it, right? It's not a periodic dot. It's direct damage that you take, reduced by spell deflection. Same thing with their Fireball, which Fireball is more akin to a targeted direct spell, is probably what most people would commonly associate spell deflection with, because Onyxia's Fireball targets a person, hits them, and then does splash damage around them. But it's still a targeted ability, right? She's not just lobbing fireballs at the ground, and if you get hit, you get hit. No, she's targeting someone. It says, your name, Onyxia is targeting Soul Reeve, and then I get hit, right? So I like to show Onyxia too because she has different spell mechanics, but spell deflection doesn't care. It's all the same to spell deflection. One thing I will say is that, let's go back a little bit. Hold on 1 second. For some reason, Anubarak's Leeching Swarm does not affect spell deflection. And at first I thought it was because, you know, in Warcraft logs, pardon me, that phase 3 doesn't really get tracked like the healing. But I paid attention to my Anubarak fight in encounter, and I did not get one proc of it. I was looking for the proc too. Didn't get one proc, and as you can see in the Warcraft log list, it's not here. No data available for the spell deflection spell. Which is weird because Leeching Swarm, you would think, is like the quintessential ability for spell deflection to reduce, right? It's almost like Light and Dark Surge. It's a raid wide, you know, dot that affects everybody that you really can't do anything about. You can't avoid it or stop it, and it just happens, and it does nature damage. So for all intents and purposes, it should be affected by spell deflection, but it's not. So I don't know what the deal is there, but for some reason Leeching Swarm isn't affected by spell deflection. But I guess in all fairness, it would be kind of broken if it did, because spell deflection would just reduce so much healing done to Anubarak that it kind of would be unfair. But who knows? I don't know. I'm just, you know, guesstimating why Leeching Swarm isn't affected by spell deflection. But yeah, that's really it for spell deflection. I just wanted to clear up the confusion, explain how great of a talent it is, and really, hopefully people, if you are skipping it out there, hopefully you're not skipping it. Maybe for Anubarak you could skip it, right? You don't have to put those talent points in spell deflection, but that seems like a lot of work just for one fight. But anyway, yeah, it's a great talent, probably one of the best, if not the best, passive magic reduction talents for tanks. So it's a really good talent. I think you guys should really use it, or really take heed of it. Like, don't take it for granted. But that's really it, guys. You all know the drill. You've been great. I've been Soul, and I'm out. Peace.